Alright guys, we are back with another mod showcase here on the channel, and I'm your host, the Gaming Vault, and the mod we're going after today is the Kingler Additional mod. I believe the full title is the Kingler Additional Structures, but I'm just going to call it Kingler Additional. As you can see behind me, there are some gates, there's a wall, but we're going to get to that later. First and foremost, we're going to go over the stuff that is literally right in front of me. This is the Kingler Additional Smithy. It does have 75 inventory slots. It just adds really this, which is all of the Kingler additional structures and stuff and such. The lights, all this. All these lights are fairly easy to craft. Requires a good chunk of crystals, some metal, obviously electronics, and as long as you have a good supply of all that, all these lights are easy. Now, I would like to note about one of these lights. They are identical to a street lamppost, as you can see right here. So this would most likely be best used outside, while this secondary one that I have right here is good to be placed on the floor, and as long as it is well within range, you could absolutely light this up. Obviously, it does require angler gel, which is a little strange, but that's fine. Now, the Kingler Additional Smithy can be shifted into these two different forms. Um, Me personally, I prefer this one because it looks like an actual crafting bench, while this one looks like a crafting stool, in my personal opinion, mind you. But again, I do like the idea of having different methods of placement and different bases for each structure. As you can see, the one on the left is considerably smaller. Obviously requires the same things to craft, does the same things as the one on the right does. I mean, there's literally no difference. It is based on personal preference. And so whichever one you decide is good on you. But moving on, we covered the lights, covered the bench. Now we're going to cover these three. Now, these are the dedicated storage bins. Now, obviously, wood dedicated, stone dedicated, and metal dedicated. Now, obviously, they require their own individualness to craft, which we'll go over the crafting recipes after all this. Um, but ideally, at least in my opinion, the wood is the best one. It is the cheapest to make, and it probably looks the best, in my opinion. Um, there we go. Obviously, whichever resource you put in would go right in the middle of that center section. Um, if I remember correctly, they only take 50 metal, some wood, fiber, and thatch. I don't remember the exact numbers, but these wooden ones are the best for early game to late game. So, because you could use them throughout the entirety of your Ark survival journey, but again, they do come with a hefty chunk of resources to be spent. The wooden one is the exact same, and so is the metal. Again, it is purely based on whichever you want and whichever you find to look better. Because obviously dedicated storages are for resources and all that other stuff. But again, my personal opinion, wood. Wood's my favorite right there. But yeah, moving on. The mini forge. Unrefined resources, refined resources, obviously, gas or power. Um, it does the same thing as a refining forge. What on earth was that? Oh. Anyway, same thing as refining forge. Like I said, we'll go over to crafting recipes in a minute. Moving on. The indie cooker, obviously used for soap, used to make oil. That's interesting. I did not know that this could do this. Hold on one second. Thick blob of unrefined oil can be refined with hide to make gasoline. Okay, obviously. But from a hyperornis egg, ooh, that's something new. Okay. So you can make hyperornis farms. Obviously, you could craft the food, mushroom brews, all this stuff. Obviously, it would just take whatever it would take to regularly craft it. Just it gives you the recipe, it gives you all in one spot, and all that fun stuff. And obviously, gives you the kibble, basic kibble, all the way to extraordinarily. Wow, extraordinary kibble. Jesus, pardon my English today. Um, Veggies, and obviously you can make veggie cakes. Veggie cakes are very, very hard to make, but it's great that they have the recipe right there. Um, but yeah, that's this, that's that, and that is all of this. So right now we are going to move on to the gates. Now, the Kingler Additions mod adds two sets of new gates, as you can see here. The ones that are in front of the bigger ones are obviously the 2x2 gate, and the ones behind are the 3x3. So it goes up in tiers, obviously, wooden, stone, metal, and like I said, we'll go over crafting in a minute. And behind it here, we have a stone wall. Obviously, this is a very large section. So you build more than one of these, you got yourself a nice secure area. And over 20,000 health, too, is not a thing to sneeze at, in my opinion. I've used these walls. They're a pain in the neck to craft, but they look phenomenal wrapped around an entire base. So I do think that they are well worth the pain. I do love how it's that mix of wood and stone. It makes it seem a lot more realistic instead of just stones piled together like so. At least here with the wood, you have these parts up top that look like they're holding it together. Obviously, they're probably not doing very much, but again, it's that nice little twist of realism that really drives home the point. Obviously, the metal is kind of welded together here, so I do think at least for these gates and the wall, your best bet is going wood with the stone or the metal with the stone if you're feeling a little money hungry. Now we're gonna go on and have a look at the crafting. Kingler additional, obviously this metal, wood, stone, hide, the exact same number of resources that are required to make a regular smithy. So if you do have this mod installed, it is probably in your best interest to just make the Kingler additional smithy. Now, if you look at structures here, obviously the gates, like I said, a bit of a pain in the neck to craft, 280 wood, 80 stone, 70 thatch, 25 fiber. It's not that they're annoying, it's an annoyance to get good chunks of resources like that, in my opinion. But and I'm constantly having to reharvest and redo just to get, all this stuff done. Obviously, the 3x3 is only the same thing. Interesting. I thought it would be much more expensive. Huh. Okay. Cool. Obviously, the stone is wood, stone, and thatch, and these walls are just 450 stone with 100 wood. So, which is why I said those walls are annoying, but they are worth it. 450 stone is nothing to sneeze at. But you get a nice good Dodic, you're set. I mean, it just depends on what stuff you have to benefit you, what stuff you have at your disposal to use. Um, it just, like I said, it depends on a lot of different factors. Going over to the metal here, obviously 170 metal is no joke. 50 cementing paste is also no joke. Um, but yeah, the gates are fairly basic. The lighting, again, we went over the crafting of these already, but we're going to do it again. Metal, crystal, electronics, all across the board here. I think it's the same number throughout. 5, 10, 2, 5, 10, 2, 50, 30, 4. Okay. I mean, that makes sense though. Large lamppost, 50 metal, 30 crystal, 4 electronics. And then these lamps are 5, 10, and 2 again. Um, Storage, I don't think we went through these. 250 metal for the metal, 150 smelting paste, 50 crystal. For the stone, 250 stone, 50 metal, 150 thatch. The stone ones aren't that hard to get. The stone itself is a bit of a pain, but again, my favorite are the wood. Only 50 metal, 150 thatch, 250 wood. Not not complicated. I've been saying, not hard to grab. So again, like I said, I prefer the wooden ones, somewhat cheaper, and obviously the indie cooker. Um, 1800 metal, 300 polymer, 300 oil, 450 cementing paste. And then the multi-forge cooks metal 1.5 times faster, cooks organic polymer at a normal, cooks organic polymer into normal polymer, which again, I think that is perfect because you go into the Arctic and you get a bunch of organic polymer, you just throw it in here and it's all good. But this does have the exact same resource number as the regular Indie Forge. But being that it forges metal 1.5 times faster, I would prefer the multi-forge over the Indie Forge. Plus that and size constraints because the regular Indie Forge is massive. But again, a nice little tidbit cooking the organic polymer into regular polymer. Um, but that is going to be it for now, guys. This is going to be the end of the episode. So if you guys did enjoy, be sure to let me know down in the comments. And as always, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.